I don't realize how early I am until I open the door. The rows of desks and chairs are empty, the room is silent, and Mr. Trout peers at me from behind the podium. "It's been a few years," he says. "I got a note that you're auditing this class?" "Yeah, I want to brush up." "For what?" "I don't know, my future?" He laughs. "I'm not supposed to say this, but you don't really need this stuff for your future. You need it for high school. It's a box to check, and you've already checked it." Perfectly, if I'm remembering correctly. Maybe I just want to feel really good at something. I cross the room and claim a front row desk. Maybe I just happen to love geometry. All right, whatever floats your boat, Flora. But I have never in my career had a student repeat a class for fun. And during summer. He turns to the window, the bright morning light streaming in as if to prove my foolishness. But I look instead to the stacks of geometry textbooks on his desk, and I swear, the sight of them sends beams of light straight to my heart. "I can pass these out," I offer. "Sure," he says. As I'm centering them at each desk, placing the bright yellow textbook checkout slips inside each cover, I send silent thank yous to Jessica for letting me do this. It was the last week of school, and the impending summer at home with my parents, with both of my best friends away the whole time, Rachel working at a summer camp in Tahoe, Tara in Barcelona with her cousins, was closing in on me. It was like a creeping fog, so much heaviness. "What do you need?" Jessica asked me. Even she wouldn't be here for me over the summer break, and my weekly visits to her office had become the best part of school. I was going to miss the way she touched her fingertips together when she asked me questions, and her plants by her window, and even her tissue box perched next to me like a suggestion to cry. I told her I didn't know what I needed, and then I said, "Actually, maybe I need summer school. A reason to get out of the house every day, homework, so I can stay in my room whenever I'm home." "I don't know what we're offering this summer," she said, opening her laptop and pulling up the schedule. "Too bad there isn't art or theater." "What about geometry?" I asked. She cocked her head. "Aren't you in trig? Maybe I could audit." Her fingers tapped the keyboard. "Tim, Mr. Trout. He's teaching it on the Potrero campus." I smiled. Even better. He was my teacher the first time I took it, my freshman year. He's the one who first talked about axes and symmetry. "Perfect," I said, and she enrolled me right then. She made it so easy, even though it wouldn't have made sense to any other adult. I finish passing out the books, and Mr. Trout and I make small talk for a few minutes until he tells me, "Okay, go take a lap. I need a few minutes to plan the first lesson." I leave my backpack on a front row desk and head to the corridor. For a week or two, when I was a freshman, I rode the bus here after school to hang out in the front quad with Blake. He liked to stand with his arm around me. I liked being Mysterious, the girl from Baker High. All these random kids would come up to me and ask if I knew their cousins or exes or friends, and I would say yes and yes and yes. And Blake's arm would be there around my waist the whole time, and I usually liked having it there. I never got past the front quad then, so I give myself a tour now. The main buildings are squat, a faded blue, and behind them are rolling hills, golden with summer. I trace the campus's edges along the basketball court and the pool and the administration wing, and the morning is so bright and I'm glad to be here, about to learn something I already know. I reach the parking lot, Heading toward the stairs to the campus entrance is a group of 3 kids, and my breath catches. They're taller now, a little wilder, louder. Travis stops walking and squints at me. "Hey," Mimi says. Her hair is the same length as it was then, but now part of one side is buzzed short. Her cut-off overalls are only clasped on the right, the left buckle dangling. I feel my face get hot at the sight of her. "It's you, Blake's ex-girlfriend." I force a laugh. I didn't realize that month of my life would define me forever. Hope, still kind, says, "Our long-lost Flora." "Hi, you guys," I say. "Please tell us you're here for geometry," Travis says. I nod because I can't speak. Sharing a class with them was the furthest thing from what I imagined when I thought about what summer school would offer me. When I chose this class, I was choosing shapes and logic, angles and numbers, strangers and anonymity. Not this gang of 3 who I never thought I'd see again. Not this girl whose presence makes my head tingle and my hands shake. Even though I'm trying to look anywhere else, I can't help but stare at the bare skin of Mimi's hip, between where her overalls end and her tank top begins, as I follow the 3 of them up the stairs. When I was a freshman and stood in this same quad with Blake, I knew that it would never last between us. Even when I was enjoying the feeling of his arm around me. Even when I liked the way he looked at me, liked being his girlfriend. Because even then, certain truths about myself were floating up from the depths of my heart. Standing right here now in the corridor outside of a class I don't need to take, those truths flare up again. Because Mimi Park was what dislodged them in the first place. Back then, she always had at least one earbud in, and often she'd be looking into the distance, and her head would bob so slightly it would have been imperceptible to anyone who wasn't riveted by her. Once she asked me if I'd heard a certain song, and I said no, and she took the right side out and fit it, gently, in my ear. It was Nirvana, Come As You Are. Kurt Cobain had been dead for almost 20 years, and I'd heard of him but never heard him. And now he was singing to both of us at the same time. Only us. His voice in her left ear, my right one. We listened through the whole song, right there in the quad, and I smiled and nodded early on so that she wouldn't take it away. But after that, I couldn't look at her face anymore. Too much happened when our eyes met. I looked at my Converse and a gum wrapper. I looked at her Vans and a yellow flower growing through the concrete. The guitar sounded like it was being played underwater. The lyrics were confusing and contradictory, a lot like standing with your boyfriend's arm around you while sharing earbuds with a girl you wished you were kissing. When the song was over, she reached to my ear and took it out. "What do you think?" she asked. "It was good," I said. And now it's the summer after junior year, and I'm remembering what it was like to be chosen out of a quad swarming with people to listen to a song. I'm remembering asking her if she'd be at homecoming and how she'd said something about going camping. I'm remembering how hard I cried when I broke up with Blake, and how so much of the sadness was about losing those afternoons on the Potrero High campus, and the riot of light that filled me each time I saw Mimi in the distance. We've reached the classroom door. They cross the threshold ahead of me and head toward the back. If I had my bag still slung over my shoulder, I would stay in their group and sit back there too, but my stuff is at the desk in the front, where I left it. I would have to cross the room, gather my things, and then go back to see if a desk next to them was still empty. I don't know if they want me there, adding a 4th member to their group, so I sit where my stuff is. Maybe tomorrow can be different. Mr. Trout stands at the whiteboard. I thought he needed to prepare for his lesson, but instead he used the time to draw a giant fish on the board, covered in scales. When he has everyone's attention, he writes a Mr. right before the tip of the fish's nose. "Welcome to summer school," he says. But the rush of calm I imagined from being here doesn't come, because Mimi is also here, sitting 5 rows behind me. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. No one is home when I walk inside. I go to hang my bag on the coat rack but stop when I see a post-it stuck to it that says leave. The coat rack is brass, each hook in the shape of an animal. I touch the rhino's horn, the elephant's trunk. I put my bag back on my shoulder and head into the living room, but everywhere I look are more post-its. The clock on the mantel says Craigslist. The portrait of Granny has a question mark. The side table, its surface covered in faded rings from mugs of coffee and tea, says Goodwill. I turn my face to the floor, step around more post-it safety pinned to the rugs, and walk through the house and up the stairs to my room. I drop my bag. I step out of my sandals. I pull back my sheets and climb into my bed. I make myself small. I make myself sleep. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's Monday again. Mimi and Hope and Travis are standing by the open classroom door as I approach it, and I try to work up the courage to talk to them. I think I messed it up. I should have joined them on the first day, or at least on the second. Now too much time has passed, and they haven't asked me to sit with them, and our conversations have consisted solely of hays and goodbyes. But I don't need to find the courage because Hope spots me and says, "Flora, come see Mimi's tattoo." So I join them. It's a life-size California poppy on the inside of her right forearm. "I can't believe your mom let you get it," Travis says. What can I say? I'm the daughter of a rebel. "It's gorgeous," I say. "The petals. They're so perfect." And I feel myself flush while I say it because it's so close to saying that she's gorgeous. The truth is that the tattoo is beautiful, but even that vivid orange and green are no match for her face or her knees, or the way she's posed now. With her arm extended toward us, no hint of self-consciousness. "I want to get a tattoo," I say. "I have it planned out." I show them where up the inside of my bicep. "What of?" Travis asks. "Words, a phrase. The end of love." Mimi squints. "What's it from?" "It's just something in my head. It's something that hurts, that I can't seem to get out, that keeps me up in the early morning. I think that maybe if I could do something with it, write it on my body forever, I could get it out of my heart." "It sounds like a song," Hope says. "Or a book, maybe. I can't really picture it as a tattoo." "It'd be like a warning sign to chicks, though," Travis says. "All the girls would know to stay far, far away." My blush returns. I didn't think I was significant enough to be gossiped about at Potrero High, but turns out that I am. I glance up, see Mimi watching me. "You guys," Mr. Trout calls from the classroom. "This may blow your precocious young minds, but class is held inside the classroom." I almost follow them to the last row, but before I do, I see that there are only 3 open desks back there, so I take my usual spot at the front. Today, Mr. Trout is introducing polygons, though he hasn't announced that yet. I can see it from the shapes he's drawn on the board. I know all of their names: triangle, quadrilateral, pentagon, hexagon, heptagon, octagon, nonagon, decagon. "What do all of these have in common?" he asks us. "They're all shapes," people murmur. "They have straight lines?" "Yes," Mr. Trout says. What else? I write down everything I know about polygons in my notebook, how they are bound by a finite chain of line segments, about all of their edges, and the points where two edges meet, how the space inside is called the body. I write about convexity and non-convexity, about simple polygons and star polygons. I write about equality and symmetry, and each word steadies my heart. Mr. Trout is talking about all of these things I know already. Most of the time he sounds a little bored, but it doesn't matter. His words leave his mouth, carry across this room, and I'm filled with wonder because she's listening to them too. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. My parents are in the dining room when I get home, stationed in front of the china hutch with their Post-its. Look at this, Mom scoffs, holding up the serving platter. What were we thinking? It's the platter they've used my whole life. I don't see anything wrong with it, but Dad scoffs along with her and throws up his hands. What can I say? He says. It was the 90s. Goodwill pile? Unless you want it. Oh, Goodwill for sure, he says. He carries it to the dining table where there are 3 Post-its labeling the piles: hers, his, and Goodwill. The Goodwill pile has expanded, taking up the entire table. You guys aren't keeping anything? I ask. Oh, Dad says. Hi, Flora. Mom waves from across the room. I didn't even know you were here, she says. In my room, I open the textbook and begin the homework that, as an auditor, I don't technically need to do. Mr. Trout assigned only the odd-numbered problems, but I decide to do them all. Halfway through, just as I'm drawing a perfect cyclic with my protractor, a knock comes at my door. It creaks open, even though I haven't said to come in. How's it going? Mom asks. Fine, just doing homework. Is the class challenging? I shrug. What is it again? Geometry. She nods, cocks her head. For some reason, I thought you already took geometry. I don't respond, but it doesn't seem to matter. She's already scanning my room. My chest constricts and my stomach clenches, and I can practically hear Jessica telling me to give these feelings a voice. Any thoughts yet on what you want to keep? Everything, I say. We could get you a nicer desk, something more modern. I only have a year left at home anyway. Well, let's see how it looks in your new room and we can decide then. I was just getting into this, I say, pointing at my textbook. Oops, I'll leave you alone. I'm looking forward to Saturday. A friend told me about a new shop in Berkeley that I thought we could check out. Are you sure you want to go curtain shopping before you know where we're living? I already know the style I want. Turkish-inspired. We can see what's out there. Okay, I say. Fantastic. Back to work for you. Dad and I are tackling the hall closet next. You know, we're having a really good time through all of this. She flashes me a smile as though to prove it. Closure is so important, and we keep reminiscing and laughing. We're getting rid of so much stuff, and it just feels great. My vision tilts and then rights itself. There's a beehive in my body, swarming and dangerous, but I tamp it down and say, "That's great for you. I really need to get back to this." I turn back to the book, but I can't even see what I'm looking at anymore. I sit very still until I hear the door close. Mom's footsteps fade down the hallway. I turn to a new page in my notebook and pick up the protractor, but I press too hard on the curve and the lead breaks. I set my homework aside and open my laptop. I search for Turkish textiles and start a new Pinterest board. I collect patterns and colors, pictures of Turkish tiles for inspiration. I learn about the different traditional motifs, animals and flowers and trees, until I get very tired and give in to the comfort of my bed. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. In the midst of a lecture on the Pythagorean theorem, Mr. Trout sees something out the window. His whole face transforms. A smile takes over. I turn to find out what he's seeing. It's a woman carrying a picnic basket. "Flora," he says, "do me a favor and finish this proof, will you? And then move on to the next one." On his way out the door, he turns. "And then the one after that." So I go up to the whiteboard and take the marker. I turn back around to see Mr. Trout embracing the woman. When they let go, she takes a picnic blanket from where it was tucked under her arm and spreads it out, right there on the grass outside the classroom. I finish Mr. Trout's drawing and explain what I'm doing, and then I turn back. Everyone is watching as the woman removes 2 sandwiches from the picnic basket, both wrapped in parchment paper and tied up in bows. Next comes a dish of strawberries and 2 champagne flutes. She reveals a bottle of sparkling water with a flourish, says something, and they both laugh, their heads thrown back. I feel awkward standing here, not doing anything, so I check his notes for what I'm supposed to be working on next, erase the drawing I just did, and start the next one. "Okay, so this is the algebraic proof," I say. "A squared plus b squared equals c squared." I draw the big square with a smaller square tilted inside of it and label all the parts. I don't even turn around, because I know no one is paying any attention. When I'm finished, I set down the marker and look out the window. Mr. Trout and the woman are relaxed on the blanket, eating and talking as though they are in the middle of a park on a Saturday afternoon. Everyone in the room is turned toward the window, taking in the sight. Everyone except Mimi, who is looking at me. All at once, it comes back. The first time I saw her, when I was waiting for Blake by the oak tree, and she was passing out flyers for the Gay Straight Alliance. "Do you go here?" she asked. I shook my head no. "I didn't think so," she said. "Too bad." And then she handed me a flyer anyway. A couple weeks later, under that same tree, my heart beating hard at the sight of her. "How's the club going?" I asked. She shrugged. "It isn't, really. Too much straight, too little gay, which kind of defeats the purpose." Travis and Hope were there beside her. "Don't blame us," Travis said. "We're just being supportive." "I don't think I'm really a club person anyway," Mimi said. Now, almost 3 years later, with our teacher picnicking outside and the rest of the class engrossed in it, she raises her hand. "Yes?" I say. "Why are you taking this class?" And maybe it's because of the bizarreness of the moment, or because in the midst of the 20 other students facing away from us, it feels like Mimi and I are alone in this classroom. Whatever the reason, I decide to answer honestly. I needed to get out of the house. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. "We're going camping," Mimi says 2 hours later. "Want to come?" We're in the spot where Mr. Trout and his lady friend had their picnic, but the evidence has been cleared away. He came back into the room as though nothing had happened and told us all to head to lunch. "When?" I ask her. "Tomorrow morning, just up to Muir Beach for a couple of nights." "I don't think I can," I say. "I want to, but I have plans." "4th of July party?" "Not quite. It's like a decorating thing with my mom." "That's too bad, because we could all use some help with geometry." "Oh," I say. You're just in the market for some free tutoring? Not just, Mimi says. Break's over, Mr. Trout calls from the classroom. I shouldn't have to be telling you this. You all have cell phones with the time. Pretty bold for someone who just had a picnic during their workday, Travis calls back. That's fair, Mr. Trout says, but I'm still in charge. I pivot and head back to the classroom. At the end of the day, on her way out of class, Mimi hands me a note. Across the span of our history, it's the second piece of paper she's given me. This one is bigger than the GSA flyer on graph paper, folded into a little square. In case your plans fall through, it says. Then, under it, a drawing of a tent, a couple trees, the moon and stars, and a fire. Beneath, she's written, Muir Beach, Site 12. Asterisk, 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 lattes first, Mom says. Then the curtain shop. She wants to drive separately because she has more errands to run afterward. While she's ordering at our usual cafe, I choose a table and open up my laptop to show her the board I've created. This is so fun, she says when she sits. Look at this one. I love that color. I do too, I say, and scroll down so she can see more like it. I was thinking maybe it isn't crazy to get the curtains first before we know what the space is like. It could help us commit to the decorating scheme. You're so smart. I think the barista just called our names, Mom says. Let's go. We drive to the textile store and finish our lattes outside. I can see from the front window that there will be lots of choices, and I tell myself that the excited feeling is good, not a betrayal of myself. Feelings can be complicated, Jessica always tells me. They can contradict each other. They don't need to make sense. I peer into the window and catch sight of a pattern featured on a wall. I think I see one, I tell her. Where? She asks. Next to that window, the third one in. Mom's face next to mine at the window. The feeling of showing her something. It sparks something forgotten in me, from before the end of love appeared and began repeating itself, even in my sleep. We throw our cups away and step into the shop. Hi there, the woman behind the counter says. I have your order in the back. What order? I say. Mom shrugs like it's cute. You caught me. I couldn't resist taking a quick look. I popped in a couple days ago and fell head over heels for a print. Why am I here then? We'll need more than one set of drapes. Now show me the ones you were looking at. I lead her to the wall I spotted through the window, but up close they aren't what I thought they would be. Great colors, she says. Come see what I chose. You're going to love them. The saleswoman lays a panel on the counter for my mom to inspect. They're blue and white ikat, not Turkish at all, not the warm colors we've been looking at. Isn't it beautiful? Maybe with a rustic coffee table and leather sofas. Her eyebrows are raised. She's smiling in expectancy. Sounds nice, I muster. Okay, she says. I have a surprise for you. One more stop. Follow me. Asterisk, 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 I follow her onto the freeway and through the tunnel into our cluster of tiny suburban towns. She turns onto a residential street and I turn after her. We park in front of a new condo complex. She's holding a key in one hand and the bag with the curtains over her arm. What's happening? I say. Come and see, she sing-songs. And then she leads me up some concrete steps to a red door. She turns the key and there's an empty living room. Surprise! Welcome home, Flora. The beehive is back, all buzzing and beating wings inside me. My vision blurs with it. Are you fucking kidding me? Confusion flashes across her face. You don't like it? Surprise, welcome home? Help me choose curtains? Flora. But I've already turned away. I'm already back down the stairs and inside my car, and I don't even look at her as I drive away. I don't know where I'm going, and soon I have to pull over because I'm crying too hard. I thought when you got divorced you were supposed to fight over all the stuff. The house and the cars and the furniture, the wedding gifts that are still around, the art collection, if you're the type of people who collect art, which my parents happen to be. I thought you were supposed to want to hold on to the pieces of your life. I thought the years that came before were still supposed to matter. I want the love seat. I want the daisy mugs. I want the egg cups. I want the welcome mat and the portrait of Granny and the rocking horse and the wallpaper off the walls. I want the piano and the Navajo rug. I want my room and I want my dad and I want. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. So you do like us, Travis says when I get out of my car and step from gravel to grass. Of course I like you. You don't sit with us in class, Hope says. It hurts our feelings. All three of them are perched on folding chairs in different bright colors. Mimi is resting her bright red sandaled feet on a tree stump. She's twisting the loose strap of her cut-off overalls and smiling at me. I blush, and it's like I'm a freshman again. But we're both older now and more able to say what we want. I was hoping you'd show up, she says. I open my mouth to say something flirtatious and light, but instead a cry comes out. Tears fall. I didn't see this coming. I put my hands over my face. Oh my God, I say. This is so embarrassing. But thankfully I'm laughing now, and the crying has stopped. Are you okay? Hope asks. It's just been a rough day, month, last couple of years. We've been wondering what's wrong. You sit in the front and you never talk to anyone unless we, force you to talk to us. You space out a lot, Travis says. You look sad, Mimi says. I remember you smiling a lot more. My parents are getting divorced, I say. I never really speak the words, unless I'm talking to Jessica. Divorce is so common. Such a privileged problem to have when some people are faced with truly horrible things. But once I say it all. They've been on and off for 2 years. Trial separations. For a long time they seemed to truly hate each other, viciously. But now it's permanent and the hate is gone. They're fucking cheerful. My dad has started whistling. So you signed up for geometry, even though you could teach the class, Mimi says. And what happened with your decorating plans? I shake my head. Disaster. Well, Travis says, if you have to run away, at least you are now finding yourself in paradise. It's true. We're in the woods, but I can smell the ocean. Redwood trees tower above us. A flock of blue birds takes to the air from a branch near us. I watch them move through the sky, dipping and spreading apart and coming back together until they are out of sight. I turn back to the camp and take all of it in. There are 2 tents pitched, a neat row of backpacks lined up between them. Their chairs circle a fire pit, and next to it is a giant cooler covered in California State Park stickers. They are clearly pros at this. You guys, I say. I am so unprepared. I stopped at Walgreens on the way, but all I got was a toothbrush. My tent sleeps too, Hope says. I have an extra blanket, Mimi says. Travis gestures to the old Volvo parked in front. In my car, I have enough hoodies to clothe a small village. It feels so good to laugh. So what compelled you to come camping with the misfits? Travis asks. What makes you misfits? Well, to begin, Mimi says, we're all terrible at math. And we're all mixed, Travis says. Mimi's half Korean American and half white. I'm half Mexican and half white, and Hope? Well, Hope's got it rougher than anyone. Hope nods in mock solemnity and says, half French, half Dutch. Besides all that, Mimi says, we're like the only group of friends in the history of high school that has never had a fight, never fallen in love with each other, and never made out with another one's significant other. We feel more at home at campsites than we do in our houses, Hope says. We've encountered 4 bears over the last 3 years, and we have never been eaten. And, Mimi concludes, we have never, not once, attended a high school dance. Why not? I ask. We camp instead, Hope says. It was established homecoming of freshman year. Our parents wouldn't let us camp alone, though, so Travis's parents set up their tent a few sites away and came to check on us every few hours. That's sweet, I say. Mimi says, once sophomore year we camped in Hope's backyard. Desperation, Hope says. None of our parents were willing to camp in December. Do you like fish? Travis asks. We got a trout in our teacher's honor. Seriously? Well, we always grill a trout, but this time it has special significance. Bad news on the booze front, Hope says, unzipping one of the backpacks. I was only able to get my hands on the dregs of a bottle. Travis examines the label. Bourbon. I prefer tea when camping anyway, Mimi says, holding up her mug. Did you bring tea? Travis asks. There's mint growing everywhere around here, Mimi says. So you just picked it and dropped it into your cup? Yeah. Gross. I have no idea what you're even talking about, Mimi says. I do this every time. And how is mint tea gross? But is it really tea? Travis says. Because my understanding is that tea is dried stuff. Mimi shakes her head, opens her eyes wide, and stares into her mug. We can't even look it up, Hope says. It's possible we'll never know, Travis says. I want to try it, I say. The tea. Mimi looks at me. So you're with me on this one? I smile at her and shrug. I guess I need to taste it to find out. She stands, sets her mug down where she was sitting. She has all these little marks on her thighs from the texture of the rock she was sitting on. She walks along the path to the patch of mint, and I watch her break off a stem. She pours water from the bottle into the tin pot and sets it over the flame. Did you bring a mug? She asks me. I shake my head. She steps into her tent and emerges a few seconds later with a green mug, and I can't help thinking about how her mouth has probably been pressed to it so many times, and soon mine will be too. She drops in the mint that she picked for me. She pours the hot water and places the mug into my hands. Let it steep for a few minutes, she says. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. I was thinking, Hope says after dinner, about your tattoo. If you get it, you should also get one on your other arm, and that one should say the beginning of love. That way, depending on whether you choose to read them left to right or right to left, it could be that love began, and now it's ending, or that love ended, and is now beginning again. The fire they built is going strong, lighting up their faces. But I thought love was supposed to be eternal, I say. Travis sighs. Just another lie they feed us when we're children. At least they're happy about it, though. They're not happy, I say. They've just obliterated themselves. There was a night last January, a night that Mom and I pretend never happened. The holidays had been full of stress and traffic and travel. The whole ride up to Portland, where we always spent Christmas, my heart had raced with the anticipation of coming out to my cousins and aunt and uncle and grandmother. Someone was bound to ask me if I had a boyfriend. They did every year. And I didn't want to just say no. I was so swept up in it that I barely noticed that my parents were more hostile than usual, until the drive home, when my mind was clearer. They stayed together for most of January, but the house may as well have been a trap. One misstep and blades would plummet from the ceiling, or the living room would fill with poisonous gas. By the end of the month, Dad was staying with his friend a few towns away. One night I was up late with homework, trying to concentrate, and I thought a snack might help me through it. My mother was down there, alone at the kitchen table. "It didn't make things easier on us," she said out of nowhere, "that you had to tell the family when you did. I'm not saying you caused it, but there was tension between us before that, and to have that added stress. And at Christmas." I tell them about it. Mimi says, "And I hope you said, 'That's fucked up, Mom.'" "No," I say. "I didn't say that." "Well, I hope you do." She sips her tea. I sip mine. "I hope you tell her in the near future." "The nearest future," Hope says. "Like tomorrow night," Travis says. "Like the first thing you say when you walk through the door?" "Wait," Hope says. "What about now?" And she stands on her tiptoes and waves her phone in the air, searching for a signal until I say, "Not now, not now, not tonight." The fire is burning down, still hot but not as grand as before. Mimi pours simmering water into my mug. "So, how is it?" Travis asks me. "What?" "The tea." "Be honest," Mimi says. "It tastes exactly like mint tea." Travis's eyebrows shoot up in surprise. "Well, okay then. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's too cold to stay up any longer." I take my new toothbrush out of its packaging, untwist the lid of the travel-size toothpaste. I spot Travis coming out of Hope's tent with a sleeping bag and pillow. "Oh no," I say. "I'm taking your place?" "Nah," he says. "It's better this way. She's always trying to get with me." "Oh, please," Hope says. "You're like my brother." He climbs into his bag. Mimi says, "I'd invite you to stay in my tent, but you'd basically have to sleep on top of me." "Girl," Travis says, "you know I don't want to listen to you snore all night." He zips his bag higher until only his eyes show. "Don't suffocate," Mimi says. "We'd be lost without you." "I promise," Travis says, and then even his eyes disappear. "Do you have everything you need?" Mimi asks me. She's given me 2 blankets, and Travis let me scavenge through his car for extra layers. Lucky for me, he's the kind of boy who smells nice. I nod. She says, "I'm so glad I drew you that picture." "Me too," I say. "I'll see you in the morning, right? You aren't going to change your mind and leave us once we're all sleeping?" "No way." She touches my wrist. "Well, good night then." We close ourselves into the tent. Once Hope's in her sleeping bag and I'm in layers of sweaters, the rustle of our movement dies down and all I hear is the night. Wind and crickets. the faraway laughter from another site. Hope whispers, "My parents got divorced when I was 12. "Oh," I say, "I'm sorry." It was like the ground was dropping out. It was terrible. I got used to it, but home has never felt the same since. The top of her tent is clear. I can see the moon and the stars, and her words feel just as vast and true. As much as people want to look on the bright side, skip straight to the future when everything will be okay, the truth is that there is this time, where you sometimes have trouble breathing and you feel powerless, like you're screaming and no one hears you, and the myth of the happy future is nothing you can count on, and the only word that makes sense is escape. The end of love, the end of family, the end of being a daughter to people who wake up together in bed, leave their toothbrushes in the same little cup, roll their eyes and sigh and maybe hate each other but still come home to the same place each evening and sit at the same table. We only have a year, Hope says, and then we get new homes that we make for ourselves. Yeah, I say, and until then we can camp. Hope falls asleep. I lie very still and listen for Mimi's snores. Her tent is so close, but no sound escapes it. So much time passes that I worry it will get light soon and I won't have slept at all. I breathe in. She drew me a picture. I breathe out. She wanted me here. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. There's a magic tree, Mimi says in the morning. I want to take you there. After breakfast, of course. From out of nowhere come sausages and potatoes and eggs, somehow all hot on our plates at the same time, despite having only one pan and an open flame. We eat in silence, sip the coffee Hope makes cup by cup. Morning light streams through the redwoods. The air smells like campfire and earth and ocean, and I don't have a word for how I feel except maybe alive. And then Mimi and I are walking to her car and climbing in, just her and me, and I'm touching the crystals she has on her dash. One clear, one pink, one yellow. What are these for? I ask. My mom makes me have them in the car at all times. She believes they'll protect me. I don't have words for this. I can't imagine having a mother who believes in something like that. Good thing they're pretty, right? Mimi says, and I nod. She drives slowly down the dirt road that leads away from camp, stopping to let a small group of children cross. She waits a moment after they're gone, and soon a little boy comes darting after them. She smiles. Had a feeling, she says. There's always a straggler or two. When she pulls over 10 minutes later, it's into a turnabout that appears to be completely random. There's no trailhead, no sign, nothing to indicate that we are anywhere anyone is meant to be. I expect her to say she missed our turn, but instead she turns off the car and looks at me. Ready? She asks, and then we're darting across the narrow street. She's leading me up a hill through trees and ferns, tall grasses and wildflowers. We duck under branches and sidestep blackberry bushes, and then the land levels out into a clearing, and beyond the clearing, right under us, is the ocean. This, Mimi says, is my favorite place in the entire world. She leads me to the magic tree. It's not a redwood or an oak or a pine or a maple. I've never seen anything like it before. It's old, I can tell, but it isn't majestic like the redwoods. It's wider than it is tall, with thick branches that spread far on either side, its trunk covered with knots. She jumps up onto a welcoming branch, climbs a little higher. I touch the bark and find a place where a tiny green shoot is beginning. I have a story to tell you, I say. Mimi nods. She reminds me of Alice in the tree before she goes to Wonderland. I climb onto a branch and sit with my legs dangling. We could hurl ourselves into the ocean with just one push of our limbs, but it also feels safer, more peaceful than any place has felt for a very long time. It feels the way I thought summer school might feel. It's about me and my mom in our house. I want to hear it, Mimi says. I feel like I do in Jessica's office when I'm starting to tell a story and already wondering why I'm telling it. But, as Jessica always says, I have to start somewhere. We bought the house when I was in 7th grade, I say, and it was something that my mom had wanted really badly for a really long time. We lived in a fine house before that, but it wasn't a beautiful house, and my mom wanted all of these things, like a front porch and natural light, room for a garden and nooks and crannies. She loves nooks and crannies. I do too. Mimi smiles. I'll remember that. My dad works a lot of weekends, so my mom and I were the ones who went to all the open houses. We looked for months for the right house, and then we found it. It had everything we wanted, and it was on a pretty street lined with oak trees, and it was just a tiny bit more than my parents had wanted to spend. They put a bid on the house, and they got it. And that's when my mom and I really got started. A breeze picks up, and I take a moment to look at the branches sway above us. I try to remember what it felt like back then, back when every day was a day I wanted to spend with my mother. We made plans for each room, the paint colors, the furniture arrangements. We held up all the paintings to all of the walls to find the perfect spots for each of them. We made long wish lists of things to buy. We chose wallpaper for the nooks and crannies. I got to pick the paper for under the stairs. I chose this retro pattern, dandelions against a pink background. We put a little chair and reading table there, and it was my favorite spot in the house for a long time. We went to thrift stores to hunt for antiques. We went to auctions to bid on more art. We went to galleries and chain stores and showrooms. I learned about colors and how to mix patterns. I learned about layering textures and caring for houseplants. Every time someone complimented my mother on the house, she said, "Flora and I decorated it together." Now they're just throwing it all away, all of it, as though it never mattered. But I can't find the words to explain what it means to me. There are tears on my face, and I didn't even know that I was crying. The end of love. The end of love. Mimi slides off her branch and climbs up to mine. She takes my hands in her hands, but the gesture isn't consoling. It's more than that. I remember when I first saw you, she says. You were this happy, confident girl. And I wished I could yank Blake's arm away from you, put mine around you instead. I would have liked that. Even then. Couldn't you tell? I feel so obvious around you. I always have. I knew you felt something. She lets go of one of my hands and touches my cheek. I lean my face into her hand. I want her to keep it there forever. I wanted to kiss you then, when you were happy. And I want to kiss you now while you're sad. She just keeps looking at me, though. She doesn't move. I want that too, I say. A lot. And then we tilt our faces, lean toward each other. I am kissing Mimi Park 2 years after I met her. I am kissing her even though I often told myself that I would probably never see her again. At night sometimes, when I was awake and thinking of her, I told myself that maybe we weren't supposed to be together. Maybe somehow I got confused. Just because a person reveals something to you about yourself doesn't mean they're meant to do more than that. So just because catching a glimpse of Mimi that first time, and then each time after, made every part of me glow, made me want to press against her, didn't mean she was the one for me. Maybe all it meant was that I needed something different from what I was getting. I needed a girl. But I'm 3 years older than I was then. I've kissed a few girls by now. I think I've even been in love. But nothing has ever felt like this. I'm up against the trunk now, her hands on my face, in my hair, along my ribs, and then on the small of my back. I'm holding on to a smaller branch, afraid to let go. We're gonna fall out of this tree, I murmur, her mouth on my neck. She pulls away. I want her back. She drops onto the grass and I drop down after her. The ocean glitters below us. The sky is blue and clear. The tree is still magic. She pulls me down to the earth and she kisses me again and again, and I shift my body until she's under me, her hair against the moss, her eyes open wide, her lips still wet and smiling. I don't feel sad, I say. She laughs and says, "Good, that's good. I don't either." Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It's Flora and Mimi, Travis calls out when we get back, and just that sentence, just our names joined by, and it floods me with happiness all over again. It's hiking time, Hope says. Mimi kicks up her foot. I only brought my sandals. Oh, please, Travis says. It's not that kind of hike. We walk into redwood groves where it's almost as dark as night, where the air is so much cooler, and then out of them again into the sun. We walk cliffside with the ocean crashing below us, wildflowers growing between rocks, and into the tiniest meadow I've ever seen, where we sit in a circle to rest. I discover a cluster of California poppies next to me. I would pick you one, I tell Mimi, if it wasn't illegal. Laws are for breaking. She leans over my lap and snaps a stem, weaves the poppy into my hair. She looks at me. Perfect, she says, and Hope agrees, but Travis squints and shakes his head. She needs a second one for symmetry. He plucks another and hands it to Mimi, and I don't know how I got so lucky to be here with the three of them. It makes no sense that we would meet again the way we did, in a summer school class, us the only rising seniors in a classroom full of 15-year-olds. I have a question, I say. Tell us, Hope says. Why, how are you all in geometry? We're doomed when it comes to math, Hope says. We've always been behind. Mimi says, it was the only class we had together last semester. First, the teacher separated us because we couldn't stop talking to each other. No exaggeration, Travis says. It was like physically impossible for us to stop talking. And then we spent the whole time texting. Hope shakes her head. It was terrible. I tried to ignore my phone, but they kept shooting me meaningful looks. We all got D's, and now here we are in summer school and we're all together again. Travis says, it's our second time through and none of us are learning anything. You guys, I say. What you need to understand is that geometry is the best math. Hope laughs. Travis says, best in math used in the same sentence? You've lost me. Mimi runs her hand along her tattoo and smiles. It's the most personal. It relates to our bodies. I stand up and hold my arms out. Symmetry. Proportion. You guys know that Leonardo da Vinci drawing where the man stands like this and then you also see his limbs like this? I widen my stance and raise my arms higher. Yeah, the naked dude, Travis says. I'm pretty sure most of his dudes were naked, Mimi says. But this one has a circle around him, right? Hope asks. Yes, and a square too. That drawing is all about geometry. And then there's all this other natural stuff, like when you throw a rock into water and the ripples spread out, getting bigger and bigger, and the veins on a leaf, and the pattern of scales on fish. The way you can look at a tree trunk and see how it's grown. Beehives. Succulents. What I don't get, Travis says, is why they don't teach us that stuff. It's like they want us to fail. What I don't get, I say, is that I signed up to take geometry because I thought it would be completely familiar and mundane, but I ended up here instead. That sounds like a compliment, Mimi says. It is. I sit down again and kiss her quick and light right at the corner of her mouth. Looks like some new dynamics have been established, Travis says, raising his eyebrows. When we get back, I'm gonna go ahead and move my sleeping bag back into Hope's tent. Last night was fucking freezing. Asterisk, 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 night is falling again. Hope comes back from her car with a ukulele. Travis disappears into the brush and returns with 2 fistfuls of leaves. I'm making tea, he says. A very special blend, mint and some other stuff. Is it going to kill us? Mimi asks. Oh, come on, he says. Nobody has ever died from tea. I don't take a single sip, but it warms my hands as the air grows cooler. In honor of you, Flora, I'm singing exclusively love songs tonight, Hope says. Mimi heats up minestrone over the campfire and divides it among 4 bowls. Every move she makes is enchanting. A drop of soup splashes on her thumb and she sucks it off. She hands me a bowl, and our fingers touch. She doesn't say much, but she's still telling me things. She's saying that yes, there are Januaries, and the terrible things people do to each other when they are no longer in love. She's telling me that the end of love is a fine phrase to ponder, but it's a poor choice for a tattoo. Because just as there are Post-its and red condominium doors, there are also tree branches and coastlines. There are sleeping bags and tents and pinpricks of stars. There are people like her. There is the person I'm becoming. I'm going to have to drive home tomorrow. Maybe my parents will yell at me for going away like this. Maybe they'll smile and ask if it was fun. Either way will hurt. In 2 weeks, our house will be empty. And then the stagers will descend with the trucks full of no one's furniture and art, and try to make it look like a different family lived there. An imaginary family with no photographs or mail or food in their refrigerator. In real life, we were sometimes messy. We didn't always do the dishes. We left pots soaking. We let the papers pile up and left too many pairs of shoes by the door, and didn't vacuum as much as we should have. We were not always happy, but we were always us. Tomorrow I'll walk in and we won't be us anymore. We'll be different people. We won't belong in the way we did before. I don't know what to do with that yet, but I know that it's true. Hope's singing another love song, though, just as she promised. She strums a little clumsily, but her voice is clear and sweet, and she knows all the songs by heart. When she finishes, she announces that she's going to bed, and soon after she and Travis disappear. Mimi leans in close. I can smell mint on her breath, not like toothpaste or gum, like something real that's from the earth. And then her lips are on my ear and she's whispering, I don't really snore. I'm smiling. Our heads pivot until it's my mouth against her ear and I say, I know. We're alone by the fire now, and the wind is picking up, and she takes my hand and we walk together to her tent. I can hear everything. The pounding of my pulse, the crunch underneath our feet, the rustle of her clothes when she bends over to reach the tent's zipper. And then it begins, the sound of unzipping, from the ground on one side, and up, and up, and down again. I close my eyes even though it's already dark because of this sound. It's like my life opening up. And then it stops, and we climb in.